All right. You know, sometimes this gotta be done. Me and one of the homies was going back and forth in the comment section. It was all love, no disrespect or nothing like that. But we was going back and forth over a video that I made yesterday about Claressa Shields signing with Sky Sports and the fact that her and Savannah Marshall could very well possibly be fighting really soon. And that's a big deal. I love pushing women's boxing. Haven't been doing it as hard as I've had in the past. But if anybody noticed, I kind of slowed down when making videos. I've been a little occupied, been sick. But I like pushing women boxing videos. And these actually are the two women that I probably push the most. Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, Hannah Gabriels. These are some of the top women in boxing. Now, the controversy kicked in when we was talking about Claressa Shields and Savannah Marshall. Now on my end, I can only speak for myself. I wasn't necessarily talking about who would win in the video. But what I did do, because me personally, and I'm just gonna say it now, I'm a fan of both fighters. I love Claressa Shields, and now don't get me wrong, I understand where some of the controversy might come in with the British fighters and like, well, you just being biased. You're probably black, because I don't, you don't see my face, but you're probably black and you're American. You probably, you're biased. Well, am I a Claressa Shields fan? Yes. Yes, I am. But because I'm an American, does that mean I like her? No. You got a lot of Americans that can't stand her. But I am a Claressa Shields fan. But now here's the reason why I rarely speak on whether or not I feel like the two will win. Number one, it's not my job to be biased. My job is to talk about boxing. Now, if they were to get in the ring or sign to fight, then maybe I would discuss who I think will win after I did a breakdown video. But it hadn't come to that yet. And to be honest with you, I think that's a little premature anyway. And here's where the controversy kicks in for me. As much as I like Savannah Marshall, and I am a huge Savannah Marshall fan, go watch some of the videos I put out about her. I'm not hating on her. I think she has more work to do. That's all I'm saying. I think, honestly, and I think if the homie watched the video and comment on it, he'll tell you himself, I wasn't hating on Savannah Marshall. You never heard him say that. Well, I didn't see him say that once in the comments, and he left plenty. We agreed on a lot of stuff. Is she a great fighter? Yes, she's a hell of a fighter. But I think her resume is lacking. Now, it's hard to compare fighters that don't get in the ring with each other. But because these two have fought in the amateurs, people feed off of that. And that's great for Savannah Marshall fans. That's great. I'm not hating on the fact that she beat Claressa Shields in the amateurs. But see, here's the problem. For me anyway, I don't care about the amateurs. I don't even watch the amateurs. Never have, never will. Even when I hear about prospects coming up, this, that, and the third, it's two different animals. I care nothing about the amateurs whatsoever. Outside the fact that I'm glad it's an amateur farm, it's like a farm league for the pros. I'm glad it is one, but I don't watch it. But we're going to get to some of the stuff that the brother said and dissect it, and that's it. Because I figure I'd rather do a video than to keep going back and forth in the comment section. Even though it was a beautiful conversation, he never got disrespectful. I never got disrespectful, or at least I don't think I did. And if I did, I apologize for it. But let's get into the whole resume argument, because really that's where the detachment came from, and probably the fact that he's saying Claressa Shields will lose to her. But see, here's the problem. I never said Claressa Shields would win or lose against her. I never even gave that, that declaration. But that's cool. if he believes Savannah Marshall will beat her, that's great. But now let's look at the resumes, because really that's where our argument is kicking in at. And I'm going to read some of this statement. Now, I put the statement up. Shout out to kelletman. Like I said, no disrespect. I thought it was a great conversation, but I figured I'd just do a video about it. And he said, at Head Bussin Boxing, it's been hard to get fights for Savannah Marshall. Nobody wants to fight her. Now, I'm assuming this was maybe a typo. It says it was in hiding to nothing when most of their management team expected to lose. So I'm not exactly sure what he was trying to say. Then he says, but now she's got the WBA. Well, I'm assuming basically just saying people didn't want to fight her. Then he said their management team expect to lose, but now she's got the WBO belt. That changed. You can draw a few parallels at this point. Savannah Marshall did beat Claressa Shields in amateurs. All right, now I'm going to address that first. All right, now Claressa Shields 64-1 in the amateurs, right? Okay, now we already know who that one loss was to, but for any of those that don't know, we're gonna go and find it. Actually, this is something I've never done before. As far as I didn't even know what the score was, anything. But according to the stats box rec, it was 8-14, and this was all the way back in 2012. So we're talking roughly about 9.5 years ago, something like that. Okay, now I'm gonna go to some examples of pros compared to amateurs, just to show why I don't really put that much stock into it. And we're gonna start with Mike Tyson. All right, now as you can see, Mike Tyson was 15-3 with 2 knockouts, and I'm gonna blow that up. But let's get to what we gotta get to. Okay, now he has 2 losses back to back, right? 2 losses. Henry Tillman, both unanimous decisions, 1-4 and 5-0. Okay, and he also lost to Craig Payne. All right, so Henry Tillman twice, Craig Payne. All right. All right, now this is their first fight, and you see Mike Tyson, you see Henry Tillman, and let's see. I think that this is the second round right here. I fast forwarded a little bit, and you see Tyson stalking him, trying to do his famous lunge in, left hook. Tillman just bops off and land a nice little jab / check left hook. I'm assuming it looked like a jab to me, but if you want to say it was a check left hook, no problem. Okay, now Tillman kind of taking him to school a little bit. Tyson working on the outside, which most people would say that was a huge mistake, considering he rocked him right there. Considering Tillman has the height advantage, and that might be why he lost the fight. Who knows? But as you see, he's loading up, and he's definitely getting on the inside. But you don't see the peekaboo defense like that. Maybe a little bit. You see the head movement, but he's not really crouched over. It seems like he's actually content with fighting from the outside, and he's getting hit like that. Now, I'm not saying he's not giving as much as he's getting, but he is getting hit. You can understand why he might have lost. Now, I'm not going to watch the whole fight, but we're going to and I'm not going to look at the second one either. But we're going to fast forward to them fighting in the pros and see how it looked. Losing record, wasn't even a contender. But he beat Mike Tyson in the amateurs. So does that mean he'll whoop him if they would have fought, years later? No, that has nothing to do with nothing. 2 different animals. Now, I could do other examples of people getting beaten in amateurs, but I think you guys got the point, so I'm gonna move on from there. But before I do, let me prove a point real quick. Now, Savannah Marshall was 58-15 in the amateurs. That's a pretty good record. 15 losses in the pros, you would say is a lot. But in the amateurs, hey, that's still a good record, right? But according to your logic, she can beat Claressa Shields because she beat her in the amateurs. So does that mean and I'm not gonna bother to look up all 15 of the women she fought, but does that mean that every single one out of those 15 women that beat Savannah Marshall in the amateurs would beat her as a pro? Of course not. That sounds ridiculous. Why? Because it's the amateurs. We're talking to pros. I mean, just come on, let's think about that. I know that sounds like a great point sometimes when people say it, but that's the amateurs. That was almost 10 years ago. Now let's move on from this amateur stuff, because like I said, I don't even like talking about the amateurs. To me, it's a waste of time. Now, he did bring up the fact that she beat Shields in the amateurs. We'll address that. But now he's talking about parallels. And yeah, she did. But you said she beat a much improved Hannah Rankin more easily. Within 7 rounds, Hannah Rankin trainer said he was going to put Hannah Rankin out of the fight at the end of the round 7 to save her more damage. Hannah Rankin had told her corner she thought her jaw had been broken. She also suffered perforated eardrum in that fight. The jaw was later found to be fractured. Hannah Rankin had never been stopped. Hannah Rankin said Savannah Marshall got the hardest hitting punch in women's boxing, and she's been in with some of the good girls. Okay, let's stop right there. Now, as you said, Claressa Shields fought her as well, so you can make a comparison, right? Now, did she break her jaw or perforated her eardrum or whatever you said? I don't think so. I mean, she might have, but I don't think so. But I can tell you what she did do. She put on a master classman's boxing lesson on Hannah Rankin. That's what she did. She counterpunched her to death. She showed great head movement. She came forward and did whatever she wanted to do to her coming forward. I mean, she just did whatever. She could counterpunch. She could be the aggressor. She got on her toes some. I mean, she literally did whatever she wanted to do. Now, I must admit, because it is true, Savannah Marshall got the stoppage. So I would assume you would say a 7th round stoppage trumps a 10th round landslide victory. Both of them, I don't even think lost the round to her. But Savannah got the stoppage. But that doesn't make her a better boxer. That just means she beat up. Now, you said that's a better version of Hannah Rankin, a much improved, I think were your exact words. But how can you say that? Because when she fought Claressa Shields and lost, that was her 3rd loss. Then she lost again before she even fought Savannah Marshall, which would have given her her 4th loss. Then she lost to Savannah Marshall. Is it possible Hannah Rankin might have been going downhill anyway? Just saying. But I'll give her credit for the Hannah Rankin fight because it's probably her biggest fight. But on the other hand, that's just another fight for. Matter of fact, that ain't even another fight for Claressa Shields. That would be one of her lesser opponents. And there lies my argument. Savannah Marshall resume, Hannah Rankin practically makes her resume. Oh, I'm sorry. It is somebody else that you brought to the table. That you wanted to do a little comparison. But this ain't even a triangle theory. This is more like a square theory. You brought up Maria Lindberg, right? Who had gone 20 rounds with Christina Hammer. Okay, she went 20 rounds with Christina Hammer, and she got stopped in 3 rounds. And when I say she went 20 rounds with Christina Hammer, basically what I'm saying is she fought Christina Hammer twice and went the distance with Christina Hammer twice, right? But unfortunately, she only won on one judge scorecards 2 rounds. No, 2 judge scorecards 2 rounds, and on one judge scorecards 3 rounds in a 10-round fight. Basically got whooped. Then in the rematch, she didn't win any rounds on it, a straight landslide. Now, she did get knocked out by Savannah Marshall, but she also came into the fight on late notice. So, how much does that really say? You fought somebody on late notice and you beat them, right? But her biggest claim to fame was I think she might have had the IBF belt long enough to have a cup of coffee, and that's at welterweight. We ain't even talking at 168, which I believe she fought her at. Matter of fact, let's check that. Did she fight her at 168? Let's see. Did she fight her at 168? So no, she fought at 160, but that's a welterweight. I mean, so that ain't really a big deal to me. You fought a fat welterweight at 160 and knocked her out. So what? And the biggest thing you can bring forth out of that, and the biggest argument you can make out of that is that Lindberg went 20 rounds with Christina Hammer. So what? I mean, I'm not even impressed that Christina Hammer beat her. The best thing she ever accomplished was at welterweight, and I'm not, showing that, but still, like, come on. Where does Claressa Shields fall in on this? Well, she went 20 rounds with Christina Hammer. Well, okay, Claressa Shields went 10 rounds with her, but how many rounds did Christina Hammer? And that's the legendary Christina Hammer. How many rounds did she win against Claressa Shields? Really none, but if you want to argue one, maybe the first round, perhaps, that's it. So, I mean, once again, but what does that mean? Nothing. And I'm talking about on my behalf or yours. It don't mean nothing. That ain't got nothing to do with if Savannah Marshall was to get in the ring with Claressa Shields, what Claressa Shields did against Christina Hammer, or what Christina Hammer did against Maria Lindberg, or what Savannah Marshall did to Maria Lindberg. None of that means nothing when when Shields and Marshall get in the ring. Nothing. And not just that, just to keep it transparent, don't none of that mean anything if Christina Hammer and Savannah Marshall was to get in the ring. Totally different styles. And to be honest with you, I would love that fight because I really believe that would show exactly what Savannah Marshall was made out of. And maybe she'll knock him out, who knows? But I will say this, Christina Hammer ain't 5'6" and a former welterweight. She has the pedigree. If she beat Christina Hammer, I keep telling y'all, I like Savannah Marshall. She's bad as you know what. She is a warrior. She'll knock your block. I give her all of that. I didn't want to have to do this, but I mean, y'all actually making me go against somebody I like. But don't none of that, because what did he bring up next? LeBlanc? Sidney Leblanc did manage to go 10 rounds with Claressa Shields. Okay, in her third pro fight. The only other girl to go the distance was Savannah Marshall. And that's actually benefiting my argument, but who cares? And the reason why I can say that is because, once again, in boxing, triangle theories don't mean anything. They don't. They really don't. And I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to make this quick, and I'm going to shut it down after this because really I don't think there's much else really to address. Because all we're talking about really is power, her power and her Savannah Marshall's power versus her resume. Your argument is her power. My argument is the resume. Okay. Look at when you go back to the 80s. They say the 4 legends or whatever. Hagler, Hearns, Duran, and Leonard, right? Now, Marvin Hagler beat all of them except for Sugar Ray. And actually beat all of them rather easy. Now, you could argue he beat Sugar Ray too. Sugar Ray beat all of them except for Roberto Duran. Well, actually he beat Roberto Duran, but he beat him once. Now, according to what we're going off of, as far as who beat who, you would say Tommy Hearns the worst out of all of them, right? But now Tommy Hearns beat Roberto Duran, But he lost to Sugar Ray, lost to Hagler. He got knocked out by Sugar Ray, got knocked out by Hagler. Now, he wound up knocking out Roberto Duran probably in the most brutal fashion out of all of their fights, right? So who do you determine who's the best out of that? You don't, not far as a group. You can only speak for us when they get in the ring. Would I say Tommy Hearns was better than Roberto Duran in a head-up fight? Yes, I would. But it's the matchup. Roberto Duran was coming up from lightweight or whatever little division he was coming up, and Tommy Hearns was a huge welterweight. Now, that didn't mean much against Marvin Hagler, but then again, styles make fights. Roberto Duran had a better style for Marvin Hagler than he did for Tommy Hearns. Now, you could argue because he was coming up from a lighter weight and was quick, that actually benefited him against Sugar Ray Leonard, right? Didn't do him no good against Hagler because of his length. But my point is, styles make fights. You see what I'm saying? Styles make fights. Game plans make fights. But triangle theories don't mean jack. Don't mean nothing. Nothing. You can throw them out the window. Only thing you can get from watching, when you say, well, he fought this person, that person, go look at the film and try to figure out their tendencies and form their tendencies and form a game plan based off of that. That's all that mess matters for. Nothing else. You can take plenty of fighters that fought okay, let's go heavyweights. You could do the same thing with heavyweights, right? Okay, well, AJ lost to Andy Ruiz. Does that mean if AJ was to beat Tyson Fury, Andy Ruiz could beat Tyson Fury? No, it don't work like that, and I know you know better. But that's pretty much all. Like, I done made this way too long to even think about continuing. But matter of fact, let me roll, look, see if anything else on here I want to address. See, because all of this really is about how hard she punches. Savannah Marshall, that is. And like I said, I'd give her that all day. Can the girl crack? Yeah, she can crack. She hit hard as I don't know what, but she hadn't fought anybody. The names you mentioned as far as who she fought was LeBlanc, and Hannah Rankin, as far as the comparison stuff. Well, those were low-level opponents in Claressa Shields' resume. And then you brought up Maria Lindberg because she fought Christina Hammer twice and went the distance. But Christina Hammer ain't no knockout artist. So what? See, that's what I'm saying. It's styles that make fights. It don't work like that with the triangle theory. But I will say this: I enjoyed talking to you, Kettleman. I hope I said your name right. Keep hitting me up in the comment section. I really enjoyed the convo. But I just figured I could make a video about it. I really didn't have much to do today, so I just went ahead and made a video about it. And you made some good points. I'll give you that off of what you had to work with. But you know it, just like I know it, she ain't fought nobody in the pros. There's plenty of women out there that she can fight. And yeah, maybe they scared, maybe not. You're going to have to prove that, though. But you still got a Lisa Napoleon that she probably could get in the ring with. She might be taking some time off. I heard she might be pregnant or had a baby or something. But that's a fight that could have been made in the past. I doubt it very seriously if Franchon Cruz-Dezurn is afraid to fight her. But she could fight her. And another fight that I would love is her versus Ellen Cedar-Rose. I think that would be a great fight. Raquel Miller, that would be a good matchup to put it in there with. If she can get up to 175 or whatever the heavyweight ranking is, because that's where Hannah Gabriels is, go up there and fight her. That's the name. And it's another division. What's wrong with that? And I think she'll beat her. Hannah Gabriels at this point is getting old. Plus, I think even though she's at a higher weight class right now, I think that would benefit Savannah Marshall, considering how tall she is. So that weight ain't gonna hurt her. But the point is, it will build her resume. But that's the only thing I got against her resume. But can she fight? Yes. Yes, the girl can crack too. She can box, she can punch, she got range, she can fight on the inside with that length, or at least she can against subpar fighters. Cause that's all we really got to see her in there with. If all she got, if the biggest name you got is H Rankin, then we ain't got nothing to talk about. And that's pretty much all I got this here Bussin Boxing's own Fight Doctor. Hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Hit me up in the comment section, Kettleman, and I'm definitely talking to you. You know, with a response. Let me know what you think. Whoever else, join in the conversation. It's all good. Just chopping it up. No big deal, no hate, no malice. It ain't gotta be somebody trying to insult each other. We had a nice conversation, and that's how it should be. And that's pretty much all I got this here Bussin Boxing's own Fight Doctor. I am out.